Hi everyone, I'm Julie Martin with a look at your top story. Well, the heat remains the major story across much of the country. Hi everyone, I'm Julie Martin with a look at your top story. We're going to start things off here in the south and southwest. In fact, this ridge of high pressure has been in place now for quite some time, keeping things nice and steamy throughout the area, dry as well. One of the big questions is, where did all of that oil go? And it's likely going to take a lot longer to figure that out. This could be a high wind hail producer, possibly even a tornado or two. So we'll be tracking that system for you as it does head east for your Saturday.
Between the beginning of the hour and now, you've put a hat on, so I guess the temperature's dropped.
Well, the temperature hasn't dropped down. I have to admit it was my hair. I had a hair problem out here. It's a little windy.
Many of us looking forward to a warm spring, but according to the latest report from our sister company, Weather Services International, not everyone will be getting one.
The good news, Lynn, is that everything east of the Mississippi, the major cities from Chicago to New York, looks like clear skies. Just going to have to deal with the travel troubles indoors.
We are watching this line of severe storms as it's pushing its way in through your region. This has already produced a tornado in Oklahoma. We are watching it for potentially more severe weather.
Julie Martin of the Weather Channel with us again tonight from Coventry in Rhode Island. Julie, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Well, the rivers are definitely receding, but the worries are rising tonight in Rhode Island. We're still dealing with contaminated water, closed roadways, and now compromised structures. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Martin with a look at your top story. Happy Friday to you. Well, if you're living in the south, southwest, no break from the heat here in the southern plains. In fact, we're going to be seeing some big temperature departures. Once again, Dallas, you'll be almost 10 degrees above average. Triple digits in San Antonio and Lubbock as well. No break due to this ridge of high pressure, which has been now hanging around for about a month or so. Oklahoma City, you're going to be getting in on the action on Saturday with temperatures 13 degrees above average. So triple digits, widespread heat, high humidity as well with those dew points up in the 60s and 70s. So it's going to feel hotter than it even reads on the temperature scale. All right, cooler than usual in the Pacific Northwest. In fact, we're going to see some big departures in Portland, Seattle, Salt Lake City. You're going to be on the cool side as well. We do have a trough of low pressure moving on in from the Pacific, and it's going to make things very pleasant for the weekend. San Francisco looking at a high of 66 degrees. LA, beautiful at 78 degrees, about 5 degrees cooler than average. Be sure to keep it here at weather.com and the Weather Channel. We'll keep you posted on any changes.
Tonight, residents in communities that took the brunt of last night's storms are starting the enormous task of rebuilding shattered lives. The Weather Channel's Julie Martin joins us again tonight from Cincinnati, Arkansas, one of the hardest hit areas. Julie, good evening.
Good evening, Kate. Tonight, the death toll has risen to 7 after a Missouri woman who was hurt yesterday died in the hospital here in Cincinnati, Arkansas, the site of at least 3 fatalities. Most spent the day cleaning up, but dealing with this tragedy will likely stretch well into the new year. So this is what's left of the living room, huh?
Yeah.
It was hardly the New Year's Eve Ben Hignite and his wife Kristen had in mind. Returning today to what's left of their home, barely 24 hours after it was all but destroyed.
And we squatted down right here, and then it hit. About the time we sat down, it hit us.
Ben, Kristen, and their 4-month-old daughter Callie crouched in the hallway as the storm raged around them. It turned out to be the safest place to be.
This is where your daughter sleeps.
Yeah.
The walls of Callie's room gone, her crib full of broken glass.
I just waited for the house to come down on top of us or for us to be sucked out.
Kristen Hignite has lived in the Cincinnati area her whole life and counts those who died here as friends.
It's a part of life that's just gone. We'll never get it back.
Across several states today, from Missouri to Mississippi, shocked residents were cleaning up and assessing the damage. In Missouri, Governor Jay Nixon toured the hardest hit areas where hundreds were left homeless.
We're asking the folks, at least today and in the short run, get a look at these things on TV instead of getting a look at by trying to drive here. There's a lot of emergency work going on here and around the state.
At O'Leary's restaurant, owner Kevin O'Leary ushered dozens of customers into the walk-in coolers and bathrooms to protect them from flying glass.
I've always heard that sounds like a train, and that's exactly what it sounded like.
Back in Arkansas, the Cincinnati United Methodist Church, still standing, has become the focus of relief efforts. An unfamiliar role for a church that just last Sunday counted 7 in the pews.
That's the thing about the community come together saying, doesn't matter what happened to you, I'm here for you.
It's that sense of community that Ben and Kristen Hignite hope will sustain them.
We're more fortunate than some. I mean, we may have lost our house and vehicles, but we've got each other, so we'll all work out.
Here in Arkansas, as many as 24 families are in need tonight, but thanks to help from friends, neighbors, and the American Red Cross, they all have a place to sleep, food to eat. And as far as the weather pattern here in this part of the country, conditions look a lot calmer over the next few days. Kate?
Julie Martin in Cincinnati, Arkansas tonight. Thank you.
It was a force that picked up cars, cabins, even concrete. Hours of heavy rains fed a raging river that jumped more than 20 feet overnight, pouring through rugged terrain. For sleeping campers at the Albert Pike Recreation Area, there was little to no time to escape.
There's people screaming and cars crashing into trees and, just, like I said, roaring. Could have been a train going through or a tornado going through. Loudest thing, scariest thing I've ever heard.
In the darkness, families were separated. Reality would set in at daylight.
Just as I came around the curve, my car lights caught something that I said, oh God, don't let that be what I think it is.
Janice McCrae owns a number of campsites adjacent to the federal campground. Her discovery, the body of a young girl, the sad beginning to several days of searching that would eventually end with 20 victims. Amanda Willis's 6-year-old daughter Kylie was among them.
I remember waking up and I did not, I guess it's, my heart wouldn't let me believe that something like that could have happened.
Kylie, her grandmother Julie Freeman, and the little girl's friend Gable Moss were camping in a car behind Amanda and her husband. All three were killed when their car was swept away.
Thank goodness God left me with my husband and my stepdad, or else I don't know what I would do.
Willis has tried to cope by sharing her daughter's love of animals through a rescue in her memory. She says it helps ease the pain, but it doesn't answer the questions.
We really had no idea that there was, that the storm cell had set there at all.
And in part 2 of our series later this hour, we'll take a look at one of the critical issues that remains. Why weren't campers better warned, and whose responsibility is it in the future?
In the early morning hours on June 11, 2010, a relentless storm system pushed the Little Missouri River to unprecedented heights. It rose overnight by almost 20 feet.
I heard an estimate from one of the helicopter pilots that said that water was moving about 100 miles an hour.
A force that would sweep away 20 campers at the Albert Pike Recreation Area. Amanda Willis lost her mother, Julie, 6-year-old daughter Kylie, and Kylie's friend Gable to the flood. But why did Willis and so many go to bed that night without worry?
I checked the weather and it said, that the storm was rolling through and it was supposed to move on out.
But that was earlier in the day, off-site. The National Weather Service would later issue a flash flood watch and eventually a warning, but they went unheard in the remote areas of Albert Pike. The closest weather tower had failed months earlier. Regardless, it never had a signal strong enough to reach the campsites.
There are definitely some things that need to be changed. I would just suggest to read the Forestry Service's report.
That 74-page investigation shows some of the deadly campsites never should have been developed in the first place over flooding concerns. But according to the USDA, a former ranger overlooked the matter. Some of the victims want justice. Candace Smith and Carrie Basinger, who both lost their husbands and 2 children in the flood, are petitioning the U.S. Forest Service to keep the campsite closed until a warning system is in place. The issue has gained the attention of legislators.
I want the Forest Service to have public hearings. I want them to get with the experts and take the time they need to get this right, because we cannot risk losing another life at Albert Pike.
Well, the U.S. Forest Service hasn't decided whether to install a warning system, but says it is exploring all options. Meantime, NOAA has installed a better weather radio transmitter that does include coverage into Albert Pike, but the federal campground remains closed. I'm Julie Martin, the Weather Channel.